Good evening, Melbourne, and also the West Coast in Geelong, and anybody watching on the internet from around the world. Yes, we're getting emails from all over the place now. Happy Wednesday. I'm Michael Gazelny. This is the lovely Alita.
Hi, everyone.
And it's Tough Times Never Last. Now almost in its seventh year with hundreds of decent people on the couch. And what impresses me about these stories, Alita, they're all real, genuine people and real stories.
Honesty sets you free.
Honesty, and you know, sort of now that I'm getting a bit on in life, you see all these people still pretentious, still not getting it, still trying to impress people with their stuff and their watches and their Armani ties, and you know, if they only knew, people don't really care. Everyone just thinks about themselves, you know. So I think it's really important to be authentic every day, to be fair income, and you know, just do our best every day, and then we're going to die, aren't we? A decent fella on the couch tonight, Troy Bannon. He's got an interesting past. He rang me a couple of weeks ago. He was a bit of a crook when he grew up, on the heroin, became a burglar, spent some time in prison. But on the positive side, 6 years of offence-free living. He's got a lovely wife who's a nurse. He's got 2 beautiful children. And now the police have caught him with a knife under his seat, which he says he used for fishing. And he recently got sentenced to 5 months imprisonment. Troy, you're a decent fella, because you know,
cheers,
I deal with a lot of people, and
Thanks,
some people are quite slimy, and you know, they bullshit, they don't pay their lawyers, and you know, but you're a straight shooter. I mean, nobody likes burglars, but you obviously burgle places for a very expensive heroin habit.
That's right. My first burglary was after my first prison sentence, really. So, but yeah, I did, and young.
What was your first prison sentence for?
Well, I was homeless. That was for like breaking into cars, you know, around the city.
Were mum and dad, was there a normal family background?
I grew up with my mother and stepfather, but that got a bit tough, I guess. You know, the dynamics of I was a bit of a roustabout as a kid, you know, and messing around with graffiti and stuff, and so just moved on.
You actually said some of the coppers in those days, they thought they were doing you a favour by, you know, noticing that you were tagging things. But what tended to happen, was I right, that they actually labelled you, and it felt like they were watching you but no one else. So you sort of felt like you were going to turn out bad either way.
That's right. It was interesting. I saw a young kid, he's a ward of the state, and he was living in Hyatt, where I was living just about 12, 13 years ago. And I saw him, he was lighting fires. He was 9 years old on the train station. And I got to see him every day because I used to catch the train every day. And I was there one day when the police came. And they said to me, Troy, you know, if this young boy, he tends to run when we stop, and we're always trying to drive him home, or we drive him back to the station, then home. You need to tell him we're his friends. And I nodded along, but really I just thought, you do think you're doing him a favour, but every time you sort of take these kids' names down, you're giving them a history. One day they reach 18, and when they read out over the radio, you just read out time after time this kid's been picked up, and all of a sudden
Troy,
it's responsible.
Going away from the victim mentality now, you hit a time when you had a heroin habit. How much a day, roughly?
Anything from half a gram to a gram.
How much would that cost?
200 to 400.
To 400. And you're spaced out, so rather than becoming a male prostitute like some do in New South Wales and make their money that way, you end up breaking into people's homes. Tell us about the first burg. I mean, everybody would be shit scared about doing a burglary. There might be people inside, there might be kids inside. Tell us how you got comfortable with doing burgs.
I really got the comfort, you know, and I'm not trying to be a victim, but in prison, that's where I lost all my fears. So prior to prison, I was breaking into smashing windows and grabbing the phones out of cars. And when I got out of prison, when I was in prison, my mate said, look, go for a house, you know. And look, I wasn't expecting to re-offend and relapse into drugs, but when I did, and I sort of said, well, what do you do? And he said, you just go and kick the door, and that's it. And so I knocked on a door, and I ended up going around the back and kicking it in, and you know, I found some goods in there pretty quick. And I guess it's just that, you know, that easy money, that easy...
And I know all the viewers are thinking, God, we hate burglars, and you know, 1 in 5 has had an experience of being broken into, and it feels quite disgraceful when you come home and all your stuff is out on the floor, you know, and most people say, well, residential burglars should be jailed. But then, of course, we've got this balancing thing we put into the mix of somebody who has got a heroin habit and is not thinking clearly.
It's a disease. And Michael and I, we know of people that have been robbed 3 times in a matter of months. But when you've got that disease, and I suppose, and you go into prison, you lose your fear and you just think, I'm going to do what it takes.
Yeah, it is that the pain you feel on that drug is just, I mean, the enjoyment's long gone. It's just getting away with that illness. And you will justify anything to yourself, but you look back and you just... You know,
Troy,
like I
in your
look back
mind,
at how many people I've hurt, and I can't even imagine.
In your mind, you would have done about, what, 50 burgs? Or up to 100?
Yeah.
200, 300. You're a professional burglar. Did you ever come into a house where there was people in there?
Yes, a few times.
And of course, that changes the whole... Dynamics. It turns into an aggravated burglary, which used to end up in the county court.
Yeah.
What happened there?
Different every time.
Did you ever assault anybody?
No. I'll tell you, one time I was in a burglary and 2 men came in, not realising I was in there, and they had a little girl. So I actually locked myself in the toilet and said, call the police, because we actually were burgled when I was a child. And the burglar was long gone, but I remember how scared I was. You know, saying to Dad, is the burglar still here? And you know, that was a real wake-up call as well.
You did that? You locked yourself in there?
Yeah, I waited for the police, and you know.
And what did they think?
Well, they treated me not. They didn't say what they thought, but they were pretty, you know, they were.
You don't know what you're going to come against.
If I could just say to the viewers too, Troy is different kind of a burglar. He when he had the drug habit and he was doing some time, he actually went to court by himself and asked the magistrate to lock him up so he could go back inside and get some drug treatment. But we'll talk about that interesting story after the next break. Don't go away. Show, happy Wednesday night. If you're going through some tough issues at home, all the very best, and remember that nothing ever lasts forever. All the good things never last, all the bad things never last, but love and best wishes. Surround yourself with some loved ones. Troy Bannon is on the couch. Once upon a time when I was a policeman years ago, I was very judgmental. I'd probably treat Troy in those days, if he's got priors for burglary, I'll probably treat him with disrespect. I've grown up a bit, and I'm no longer judgmental and a lot more calmer than I used to be. And what I'm impressed about is that, number one, he came on the show. He rang me 2 weeks ago. Number two, that he's really made a determined effort to turn his life around, Alita.
I mean, he doesn't feel proud of any of his actions.
No.
He's happily saying, I'm a completely different person to when he was on the drugs. And you can only imagine, you know, you're desperate in those situations. It's not advocating what can happen in that situation, but you're a new man.
When I spoke to him and listened to his story, I thought in my mind, good bloke. Yeah, good bloke.
Thank you.
And I think that's why your lovely wife, you know, loves... She must be so happy that... things have worked out.
She's great, and she's been my rock. She's been the first person to really believe in me. We've got 2 beautiful, precocious kids that are just doing fantastic, and you know, they're always, you know, my son's just got student of the term, and my daughter, she's in kinder, she's just so far ahead, it's just not funny.
And
well,
I suppose before, when you did your last stint 6 years ago or something, you know, they weren't really communicating. They were just, one of the children was very little, yeah?
Yeah, well, my daughter wasn't born yet, and my son was about 4.
But now now they talk to your daddy, and there's a relationship that's growing, and now you don't want to upset that beautiful relationship you've got.
No, and you know, it's interesting. They really do, like, I see them as my future, my real legacy. And you know, my son has, unfortunately, I've just had to sort of be honest with him and say, look, you could never get into trouble, not that one time, because with me as a dad, you'll be, you know, you could get marked. And so he doesn't have a bad bone in his body, though. He literally has done nothing wrong in his just entire life, and
you're
very placid.
right.
He looks after his little
and
sister.
it's all about. I see where you're coming from. Years ago, when I was a policeman, we went to these school things, and I remember the kids were talking about their daddies, and one kid said, "My daddy's in prison, you know, but." It hurts them so much, you know, and you'd never want to go back, would you?
No, it's just absolutely heartbreaking, and
that's what a lot of people say that have been on the couch about addictions and heroin addiction. The one thing that's got them off it has been their kids. They've looked at their faces and said, you know what, I've got to clean up my act.
Exactly.
You know?
And that's the same for you viewers. If you're going through some tough issue and you're coming home depressed every day and you're getting into these self-pity parties, get rid of all that nonsense, because your kids are like sponges at the moment. If you're down and depressed every single day, what's going to happen? Your kids are going to grow up to be down and depressed adults. So, you know, just forget about that self-obsession for a minute. We all go through problems, but, you know, really take yourself out of the picture, become a bit more selfless and just start smiling a bit more and showing a bit of loving kindness. We've got to spread a bit of sunshine every day, don't we?
Oh,
because
definitely.
if we're always going to be down from going from one bad thing to another, then...
And I was, you know, in a perpetual cycle of that.
Yeah.
And it's really taught me, like you mentioned before, about how the fancy cars and all that.
Don't need all that crap.
It's just not worth it.
It's nice to have it.
It's
Nice to
all
have the
about
fancy
family.
stuff. Yeah.
And, you know, in my family, my kids are the future.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm just wanting to really put all the best of me and my partner into them. And, you know, and that's, yeah, like I said before, that'll be my legacy.
And I feel for you in that way, and I can totally relate being a parent. It's more or less like anything ever I've done wrong in my past, I definitely have a fear of making sure that my children won't do that, and I can overly discipline sometimes because I think, oh, you know, I did this. Like, so you can relate to what I'm saying. It's
definitely, and yeah, and also all the psychology comes out in me. All the psychology I've done over the years, the cancelled.
Troy, tell me this, bro. What I wanted to know was, oh, that's right. Years ago, when you were by yourself, and you know, the family unit wasn't really that established.
That's right.
You didn't give a shit off doing a bit of time, did you?
No.
In fact, you went to court a couple of times, and you said to the magistrate, "Look, send me to prison."
Yeah.
Whereas most people get lawyers and everybody's scared of going to prison. This man went there to Frankston Court and said, "Can you please send me on a bit of a holiday?" And I've seen that a few times. I saw that at Frankston about 8 years ago when a guy came in and threw some heroin on the bench and said, "I've got no home, send me to prison." And the magistrate said, "No, it costs too much." Remember that guy who sat on the couch?
Yeah, the Maori?
Yeah.
Lovely bloke.
He went to court and the police said, "No, we're not going to charge him with the heroin." And then the magistrate said, "What was that bag of..." And this guy says, "It was heroin." And the police said, "No, it wasn't."
Well,
So
that's
it's funny,
right.
when you want something, they always go the other way.
Well, that's when I was homeless, before I'd ever gone away, I went into the police station and said, "I'm a wanted man, I'm homeless, you've definitely charged me, but because I'm homeless, I haven't, you know, I've got the bluey sheet," or whatever they call it.
Then they say, "We don't want you."
Yeah, well, you can't be that bad if you're handing yourself in, you know.
They always want to make it angry.
You never get arrested in this town.
Because then they think you want a free home, and I don't want to give you that.
Yeah,
You know?
no, that's right.
So what made you want to go back in again? Like all the other people, like you didn't have a roof over your head when you got out, you didn't have any support networks. Is that why you wanted to go back in? What was
with the last time I got into trouble was actually I'd relapsed, and I had my young son, and that to me, I just had to go and fix that. And so that's what that was about. And so I thought when my son was born, I thought this will be it. And it just was one of those things that's maybe like alcohol or anything else, which I don't drink, but you think, oh, well, I can do it once, because my son's been around. You know, he's turned 1 now, and I've you know, and it just relapsed within a couple of months,
Sure.
and then it got out of control.
Troy, I know you did the Bergs to support your heroine, but everybody, when you're going through that crime spree, likes a bit of a taste of luxury, you know?
Yeah.
So were there times, there must have been times when you thought, shit, you found some gold or some diamonds, and and it was a bit more than just to support the heroine. Did you ever have
Definitely.
some really, you know, great, extravagant nights staying at luxury hotels and eating fine foods?
I did, and I used to go and, you know, and this is how twisted my mind was.
And
but
you
I
might
would-
have even gone to some of those sex workers like the lady we
No, never done that.
Never did that?
No, I was better than
Well-
that. I mean, I would just...
No,
from
that's-
myself- I mean, I just...
Cocaine?
that wasn't
That,
my
that
thing.
wasn't your thing, exactly. You
Did
were
you
more
do some
worried
lines
about-
of coke in
Um,
between the heroin?
a little bit, but not much. I wouldn't know... Most of the time, I wouldn't have known where to get it. But what I would do was sort of go and do a berg in the morning of a desperate berg, and then I would head off to Hayington in the afternoon after I've got money and I've had the drugs, and see if I could try my luck in a bigger, you know, marble stairway house. So
Did you ever go
Oh,
to
you had the confidence with the cash and the...
Did you ever go to the
yeah.
Crown or the day spas, anything like that?
definitely, I used to pick pockets in the Crown as well.
We might talk about yeah, all those times after the next break. Don't go away, we'll be back shortly. Welcome back to the show. Thank you very much for joining us all these years. A lot of people have been watching for a long, long time, and yes, it's all community TV, and it all costs money. So if you want to sponsor the show, have a look at our website, and maybe if you like to support the show, it would be very grateful, Alita, wouldn't we? Because
And we'd like to thank Beyond Blue as well.
oh yes, Beyond Blue and the Salvation Army, and the Lighthouse Foundation, and of course all the people who've been helping out, all the volunteers, Josh Marnie and Beck, and of course the great man Mitch Fraser for organising the guests now.
And I think people don't realise that this whole show's about for the community to, you know, look at other people's situations, know there's other people out there that are going through it. But, you know, 200 episodes, you know, and, you know,
Yes.
it's a big achievement.
Well, that's right, folks, because we always have this figment about the third person watching, or, you know, even public speaking. Everyone's scared of public speaking because they think the other people are watching. They all think that all the other people are great speakers, but nobody really cares that much, you know. Everybody, we should just be kind to each other, be non-judgmental, and certainly no backstabbing. Just a synopsis on this young man. He was a burglar on drugs, did quite a few burglaries, but in 2006 he was released from prison and made a really determined effort never to go back. What was different then to before, when you wanted to keep on going back?
I guess growing up, number one, but I mean, well, number one would be my children, my son at that stage.
Were you in your 30s then, when that last stint, was it?
I just turned 30.
That's a big thing. Your 20s are a real learning process, really, aren't they?
Yes, yeah.
Did your wife ever say to you, did your wife ever put you on a suspended sentence when she said, listen, no more mucking up, otherwise you're out the door, you do not get to see the children anymore? Or was she a bit of a softie who said, oh, look, you know, do whatever you like?
She was in between. She was. She would say, Troy, I know you're sick, and I don't blame you, and I couldn't go on hurting someone that would just always be there for me.
Right.
So it was
So
that.
she was almost too accepting.
Yeah.
Support?
Don't get me wrong. It's,
No.
it's with her support, I guess I really took the first look at myself, because you know, I sometimes could react the wrong way when someone just sort of growls at me. But it was her, you know, unconditional love that made me really look at myself and think, well, what am I doing?
When you were on drugs, were you an angry man?
No, I've never been. I've always been a placid, you know.
You've never...
They say mostly with heroin, like Diane, that's been on the show numerous times, heroin addict, she actually said that even on the streets, because she's a prostitute, that there was groups, the heroin people, sort of Bergs, Placid, just kept together, and then there was the ice group, you know, angry, you know, a different drug, you know, there's all these different, would you say that that's...
I would say that's, to be honest, I don't know much about all the ice and all that, but yeah, look, I guess I learned how to be tough. I could emulate the best of them from prison. I saw that, and I did bring some of that home, and, you know, funnily enough, because I'm looking at the, I'm out on bail at the moment because of this knife.
Yes, let's. I've got to gather my thoughts. I was daydreaming. This is the last segment, isn't it?
Yes.
Out of 3.
Yes.
All right. So 2006, you get out.
Yep.
You've said you're never going to muck up again.
That's right.
Yeah. But then he gets caught with a knife, going fishing. You represent yourself. You get 5 months jail. Now appealing.
Yeah.
And you don't want to go back.
No, I am appealing the severity of sentence. Looking back with my history, I shouldn't have had that knife, and I know like that now. But
what were you doing with that knife? I'll be the prosecutor. What were you doing with that knife, defendant, when you knew it's a prescribed weapon?
I actually, I thought that you could actually go take it, you know. And looking back, if I really think about it. But I just thought if you had a legitimate excuse and you have your tackle box and you have your fishing rod and you're legitimately going fishing.
Isn't it amazing, folks, how life has changed? You know, when I grew up in Frankston, I went to some sporting shop and bought myself an air rifle years ago. I think my dad still got it. I better not say that, you know. He must have a license for it. But, you know, people had little Swiss knives. Every kid got one when he was 8 years old. You know, now you get caught with a Swiss knife, up to 12 months imprisonment. Now you get caught with an air rifle, up to 2 years imprisonment, you know. It's a shame that, you know, the society has become so non-trusting that there's now an offence for everything. You know, you go to the airport to pick up some relatives from overseas and straight away there'll be 50 speed cameras there and also CityLink tolls. You know, you come back and I knew one bloke who moved from interstate, all of a sudden he had, I think, 25 points driving to the airport and, you know, $2,000 worth of fines for CityLink.
I'm over those points and those speed cameras.
The points and the epidemic of people losing their licences. How's your licence going?
I haven't had one for years.
Good. No trouble.
But Troy, you know, you've been 6 years clean, living a great life. You're looking after your kids. You're determined that they're not going to go down that path. So it's actually a real shame for you to be in this situation. And you really, like you said before, you're a different person now. You cannot handle going back into prison.
It's really going to send me backwards because unfortunately you'd like to think that you could go in as yourself, but in reality, the individual doesn't soak up into the population. The population, the intensity of the prison soaks up into you. And if you went in there to be, you know, not look for trouble, that's the first reason why there will be 100 guys trying to take your food or your clothes, your shoes, whatever. I'd actually forgotten and didn't realise how much I'd changed. I had to spend just a couple of weeks ago on that day 24 hours in the cells underneath the courts while I waited for my appeal, the appeal. And I got downstairs and I heard guys kicking on the doors and yeah, I really realised how much I'd changed, and it's really going to put me backwards. I can't see anything positive coming from it.
No, and it's not part of you anymore, is
No.
it? You know, it's not the bloke who's got the knife wanting to do further burglaries. You've genuinely changed, and you're a beautiful human being. You're a great father, a great husband, and I think you certainly deserve a chance. And
Thank you.
I understand you've got a good barrister by your side who hopefully will get you over the line.
Yep.
What are the plans for the future when you beat this legal challenge?
I'm hoping maybe to go and do a degree in psychology, eventually. Yeah, I actually do a lot of art. Made these jeans I got on.
Well,
I was
you're
gonna
looking
ask you
great,
about those.
and we're wrapping up. Sorry to cut you both short, but Troy Bennett,
love
thank you
those.
very much for the pleasure of your company.
Thank you.
Alita, thank you very much for coming on. I know you want to keep on talking like most Goldens do. Love and best wishes, everybody. Have a lovely week, and make sure to spread a lot of loving sunshine tomorrow and just smile a lot more. See you next week. Good night.